Have you ever imagined being called to a grand mission, only to discover that the path would be filled with suffering and rejection? This is the story of the prophet Jeremiah, a man who, despite knowing the importance of his mission, faced a life marked by tears and persecution. At a time when people preferred to hear pleasant and false messages, Jeremiah stood as a bastion of truth amidst a sea of illusions. His journey is a powerful account of courage, resilience, and unwavering faith, showing that even when everything seems to be against you, there is a greater purpose at play. Understand the life of a prophet who wept, yet whose message resonated through the ages, challenging us to confront our own truths and seek genuine transformation. Jeremiah was a prophet called to warn the kingdom of Judah about the imminent destruction due to the people's unfaithfulness to God. From the beginning of his life, Jeremiah carried the weight of a grand and challenging mission. God chose him to be a prophet at a time when Judah was in clear decline. Imagine a leader being summoned to rescue a nation on the brink of collapse. That was Jeremiah's burden. In an era marked by political and religious instability, he was chosen to deliver a harsh and necessary message. But unlike a typical heroic scenario, Jeremiah was destined to face not only the crisis but also the disdain and resistance from his own people. From a young age, Jeremiah felt the responsibility of his mission intensely. It wasn't just a hard job, it was a personal and emotional challenge. The young prophet knew it would be difficult to deal with the resistance and rejection of a society that preferred to ignore the truth. This sense of helplessness and anxiety can be compared to someone assigned to a critical project at work without the assurance of support or adequate resources. Yet, Jeremiah moved forward with the courage of a true leader, striving to fulfill his calling despite the seemingly insurmountable challenges. God, with his vision beyond time, chose Jeremiah even before his birth. This divine choice wasn't just a random assignment, it was a meticulous plan that defied human will. Jeremiah initially resisted his mission, fearing he wouldn't be able to fulfill the role assigned to him. His hesitation is something many of us can relate to when facing challenges that seem greater than our capacity. However, God promised him constant protection, encouraging him to press on, a reassurance comparable to a mentor providing the necessary support to achieve our goals, even when we doubt our own abilities. Amidst the adversities, Jeremiah had to tackle a Herculean task, to proclaim repentance and warn of the imminent destruction of Jerusalem. In a scenario where most preferred to ignore the warnings, Jeremiah found himself in a solitary and challenging role. His message was unwelcome, similar to a counselor offering tough advice during a crisis. He had to remain steadfast in his belief and mission, facing opposition and distrust from everyone around him. This perseverance is a shining example of how we often have to confront adversity to stand up for what we believe to be the truth. The story of Jeremiah is a testament to commitment to the truth and the fight against indifference. He is an example of how, even in the face of resistance and rejection, it is possible to maintain integrity and conviction. Jeremiah's persistence in his mission offers a valuable lesson for all of us, showing that sometimes we need courage and determination to stay on our path, even when obstacles seem insurmountable. And as he struggled to fulfill his calling, he prepared to face even more challenges on the road ahead. God chose him before his birth to be a prophet, even against his initial reluctance. Even before his birth, Jeremiah was destined for an extraordinary role. God had a specific plan for him, which is a profound and intriguing idea. Imagine knowing that you were chosen for a grand mission before even entering the world. This gives every challenge and choice in life a special weight. Even when Jeremiah initially rejected the call, his vocation was firmly established, as if God were saying, "I know what is best for you, and you will find strength in your mission, even if you don't see it now." Jeremiah's resistance to the divine call is an aspect many can relate to. Who hasn't hesitated in the face of a responsibility or challenge that seemed beyond their capacity? Jeremiah expressed his insecurities and doubts, feeling incapable of meeting the divine call. This feeling is familiar to all who face great responsibilities or expectations, like someone overwhelmed by taking on a new role or important project. Jeremiah's story reminds us that hesitation is not a failure but a part of the process of finding our true calling. God's choice of Jeremiah is an example of how the divine can intervene in our lives in unexpected ways. God saw potential in Jeremiah even when he himself couldn't see it. Sometimes we are called to roles that initially seem intimidating or unsuitable. In our own lives, we might encounter opportunities or challenges we didn't anticipate, but over time we realize they were exactly what we needed to grow and evolve. Jeremiah serves as a model for embracing these opportunities, even when the choice seems difficult. Despite his initial discomfort, Jeremiah found encouragement in a divine promise. God assured him of the protection and support necessary to fulfill his mission. This can be compared to a mentor or leader who believes in our potential and supports us, even when we doubt ourselves. Knowing that there is constant support can transform our perspective on challenges. For Jeremiah, this promise was a beacon of hope amidst his doubts, something many of us could benefit from by seeking support and guidance during times of uncertainty. Reflecting on Jeremiah's divine choice, it is possible to see that our own challenges and responsibilities may have a greater purpose. Jeremiah was not chosen by chance, his life had a larger plan that he was just beginning to understand. In our own journey, it might be helpful to view the challenges we face as opportunities to fulfill a greater purpose. Just like Jeremiah, we can find strength and clarity by recognizing that there is a larger purpose behind the challenges we face, guiding us beyond our own limitations. Jeremiah expressed his insecurities, fearing he would not be able to fulfill the mission, but God encouraged him with a promise of constant protection. Even with a clear divine calling, Jeremiah faced deep insecurities about his ability to carry out the mission given to him. This is something many of us can relate to. Imagine being assigned a monumental task and feeling that you lack the skills or knowledge needed to accomplish it. Jeremiah felt this weight and fear, questioning if he was truly up to the challenge. This feeling is a normal part of the journey when faced with significant responsibilities, and the answer lies in seeking support and encouragement, just as Jeremiah did. God, in his infinite wisdom, knew about Jeremiah's insecurities and not only offered comfort but also a concrete promise of protection. Sometimes, true strength comes from recognizing that we are not alone in our challenges. Just as a mentor or friend who believes in us can provide the encouragement needed to overcome fear and doubt, the divine promise gave Jeremiah the confidence to move forward. This kind of support is crucial when facing our own challenges, as it gives us the courage to continue despite uncertainties. The promise of constant protection is a powerful assurance that even in our moments of weakness, there is a greater strength with us. When Jeremiah received this promise, he could continue his mission with the confidence that he was not alone. In everyday life, this translates to finding sources of support and encouragement that help us confront our own insecurities. It might be a mentor, a support group, or even a spiritual practice that reminds us of a greater force guiding us. Jeremiah was not the only one to experience such insecurity. Many people, when taking on new challenges, face similar doubts. It is important to remember that these insecurities are normal and what matters is how we respond to them. Following Jeremiah's example and seeking encouragement and protection can help turn doubt into strength. If you are facing a new responsibility or challenge, seek sources of support that can help build your confidence, just as God did for Jeremiah. Ultimately, the story of Jeremiah illustrates that even when we feel inadequate for a task, there is a source of strength and protection available to us. The divine promise of protection was what gave Jeremiah the courage to face his fears and move forward. Similarly, in facing our own challenges, we can find courage and motivation by seeking support and remembering that we are not alone. Just as Jeremiah found his way, we too can find ours by trusting in the help and guidance available to us. His mission was to announce repentance and warn about the destruction of Jerusalem if the people did not return to God. Jeremiah's mission was clear but extremely challenging. He needed to announce repentance and warn about the imminent destruction of Jerusalem. Imagine the task of delivering such a harsh message to a city that was stubbornly ignoring the call to repentance. Jeremiah had to confront the harsh reality that his people needed to change their attitudes to avoid calamity. This task is similar to having to make a difficult intervention in a personal or professional situation, where what is said may be unpleasant but essential to prevent a worse outcome. As Jeremiah preached, he faced a resistant and often indifferent people. This scenario is a powerful metaphor for many situations in life, where difficult truths are often ignored or rejected. It's like someone trying to offer constructive advice to friends or colleagues who prefer not to hear what they don't want to hear. The resistance Jeremiah faced in trying to deliver a message of repentance is a reminder that truth, no matter how uncomfortable, can be crucial for change and improvement. Jeremiah's role was not just to warn about destruction but also to inspire a return to God. In many ways, this is like a coach or mentor who not only points out where something is wrong but also guides people on how they can correct their mistakes and improve their lives. Despite the resistance, Jeremiah sought a path to redemption and a way for the people to avoid disaster. This aspect of his mission is an important lesson about the importance of not only criticizing but also offering solutions and hope. Jeremiah's challenge is an example of how, often, our actions and messages can be met with resistance, even when they are for our own good. This can occur in many areas of life, from leadership to personal relationships. Jeremiah teaches us that even when we face rejection, it is essential to stay focused on the mission and continue trying to do good. Persevering in delivering the right message, even in the face of adversity, can make a significant difference. Finally, Jeremiah's mission shows the importance of staying true to what we believe to be the truth, even when facing challenges and resistance. His determination to warn about the imminent destruction and seek the people's repentance is an example of integrity and courage. In our own lives, we may face moments when it is difficult to uphold truth and morality, but Jeremiah's example encourages us to keep doing what we believe is right, even when it is difficult and unpopular. Jeremiah preached during a time of great spiritual resistance, where the people preferred to listen to false prophets rather than heed his warnings. Jeremiah's task was especially challenging because he preached during a period of intense spiritual resistance. The people of Judah preferred to listen to false prophets who offered comforting messages rather than accept the harsh truths that Jeremiah had to deliver. It's like being in an environment where people prefer to hear good news, even if it's illusory, rather than face the difficult reality. This behavior is common in many situations, where people choose to ignore tough advice to stay in a comfort zone, even if it leads to negative consequences. The false prophets of Jeremiah's time were more interested in pleasing the public than in conveying the truth. This is similar to having leaders or mentors who say what people want to hear to gain popularity, rather than offering honest and constructive advice. The popularity of the false prophets reveals a common human tendency to seek messages that reinforce what we already believe, rather than challenge our beliefs and behaviors. Jeremiah, on the other hand, faced the harsh reality that his role was not to be popular but to be faithful to the truth. The spiritual resistance faced by Jeremiah is a powerful reminder of the difficulty of staying true to the truth in a society that prefers illusion. In our own lives, it can be challenging to remain steadfast in our principles and beliefs when those around us might be pressing for conformity or seeking convenient truths. Jeremiah shows us that, even when the pressure is high, it is possible to maintain integrity and continue to seek the truth, regardless of the difficulties it may bring. Moreover, the contrast between Jeremiah and the false prophets is a clear example of how authenticity and honesty can be challenging but are essential for true growth and change. While the false prophets offered an easier and more pleasant path, Jeremiah delivered a message that, though difficult, had the potential to lead to genuine repentance and renewal. This contrast teaches us the importance of seeking and valuing the truth, even when it is hard to accept. Finally, the story of Jeremiah in the face of spiritual resistance illustrates the courage needed to remain faithful to the truth, even when it is not popular. Like Jeremiah, many of us face situations where following the truth can be lonely and difficult. However, perseverance in maintaining authenticity and integrity, as demonstrated by Jeremiah, is an inspiring example of how, despite adversities, it is possible to make a difference and pursue a higher purpose. He denounced the idolatry and spiritual corruption that were leading Judah away from God. Jeremiah was not just a messenger but a staunch denouncer of the idolatry and spiritual corruption that was eroding the nation of Judah. At a time when many were turning away from true worship of God, he raised his voice against the practices that were leading the people astray. Imagine being the bearer of unpleasant news, exposing the errors and sins of a society that preferred complacency. Jeremiah faced the tough task of drawing attention to spiritual corruption and false worship, a role that often requires great courage and deep conviction. In confronting idolatry, Jeremiah challenged practices that were deeply ingrained in the culture of his time. This type of confrontation is like addressing structural problems in an organization or in personal life, where old habits are hard to change. Jeremiah denounced practices that seemed normal to the people but were leading them away from God. This resistance to change is a constant in life, and the courage to face it, as Jeremiah did, is essential for promoting genuine transformation. Jeremiah's denunciation of spiritual corruption and idolatry is an example of how truth, even when difficult, is necessary for renewal and a return to integrity. It's like a friend who points out our mistakes so we can improve. Jeremiah did this with love and conviction aimed at the greater good. In many ways, this role of being a norm challenger can be lonely, but it is crucial for spiritual health and restoration. Facing idolatry and spiritual corruption also illustrates the difficulty of going against the prevailing current. Jeremiah stood up against widely accepted practices, which can often be uncomfortable and unpopular. This applies to situations where following the path of truth and integrity may mean going against what is popular or acceptable. Jeremiah teaches us that, even in the face of opposition and resistance, the voice of truth must be heard and steadfastly maintained. Finally, Jeremiah's example in denouncing idolatry and spiritual corruption is a powerful reminder of the importance of staying true to the truth, even when it puts us in conflict with established practices and beliefs. The courage to confront error and seek true worship, as Jeremiah did, is a lesson that resonates through the generations and encourages us to seek purity and integrity in our own lives. Jeremiah faced strong opposition, especially from religious leaders, and was frequently despised and rejected for his message. Jeremiah's life was marked by deep suffering and rejection, particularly from the religious leaders of his time. In an environment where he expected to find support, Jeremiah was often despised and even attacked by the very leaders who should have been promoting the truth. This opposition shows how the courage to speak the truth can often lead to intense conflicts with those who hold power and influence. Imagine having to confront a powerful and influential group that sees your words as a threat to their status quo. Instead of supporting Jeremiah's message, the religious leaders viewed it as a threat to their control and power. This situation is comparable to challenging figures of authority or power structures in any context, where the status quo is defended by those in command. Jeremiah faced a hostile environment where his words were met with hostility and disdain, reflecting how the truth can be difficult to accept for those who benefit from lies and corruption. The contempt and rejection faced by Jeremiah demonstrate the difficulty of staying true to a mission when those around you are against you. It is a powerful reminder that in our own lives, facing opposition does not mean we are wrong, but it can be a sign that we are challenging something that needs to be challenged. Jeremiah, even when belittled, maintained his determination and commitment to the truth, serving as an example of resilience in the face of adversity. The opposition Jeremiah faced also teaches us about the importance of persevering in the pursuit of truth, even when resistance seems overwhelming. His experience highlights that the truth can often be a disruptive force, but one necessary to provoke change. In moments when we face resistance in our own lives, Jeremiah's example reminds us of the importance of standing firm in our principles and continuing to fight for the truth. Finally, the rejection and opposition faced by Jeremiah illustrate the difficulty of standing firm when the majority is against you. His story is a testament to the courage needed to face opposition and continue promoting the truth, even when it comes with a great personal cost. Jeremiah inspires us to maintain our integrity and persevere, even when challenges seem insurmountable. The prophet was imprisoned and tortured by the priest Pazur for his prophecies, which were seen as threats to religious stability. Jeremiah's situation worsened dramatically when he was imprisoned and tortured by the priest Pazur. Jeremiah's prophecies were viewed as a direct threat to religious stability and the status quo, leading the leaders to act with extreme hostility toward him. Imagine being imprisoned and tortured merely for sharing a message you believe is vital for the spiritual well-being of your nation. This was the painful reality Jeremiah faced, exemplifying the brutality that can occur when the truth deeply challenges established norms. Jeremiah's treatment by the priest Pazur illustrates how the truth can be dangerous for those who have something to lose from change. Pazur and other religious leaders were not interested in hearing a message of repentance and renewal. Instead, they were concerned with protecting their positions of power. This is similar to facing fierce resistance when challenging corrupt or unjust systems in any area of life. Jeremiah faced not only verbal opposition but also physical violence as a result of his courage to speak the truth. Being tortured and imprisoned for his prophecies is an extreme example of how commitment to the truth can lead to great suffering. Jeremiah's experience serves as a somber but powerful reminder that standing up for the truth can come at a high cost. This aspect of his life makes us reflect on the importance of being prepared to face difficulties in our own journey when we are committed to justice and truth. Jeremiah's suffering highlights the cruelty that can occur when integrity is put to the test. Even in the face of suffering and torture, Jeremiah maintained his determination and continued to proclaim the truth. This aspect of his story inspires us to reflect on our own willingness to endure hardships for a just cause and the courage needed to stay true to our convictions, even when it results in significant personal challenges. Jeremiah's imprisonment and torture not only illustrate the personal cost of standing firm in the truth but also highlight the need for support and solidarity for those facing such adversities. His story is a call to support and encourage those who face persecution for their beliefs and to continue fighting for truth and justice, regardless of the obstacles that may arise. Despite the adversities, Jeremiah remained faithful to his mission, preaching with tears in his eyes about judgment and the hope of restoration. Even in the face of such adversity, Jeremiah remained true to his mission, preaching with palpable sincerity in sorrow. He not only proclaimed the imminent judgment but did so with tears in his eyes, reflecting the emotional weight of his task. Imagine the challenge of delivering a difficult and painful message while your own heart is broken by the plight of your people. Jeremiah's dedication is an example of how true vocation often requires not only courage but also deep empathy and commitment. The fact that Jeremiah cried while preaching reveals the depth of his love and compassion for the people of Judah. His message was not just a series of cold warnings but an expression of his suffering and desire to see true restoration. This kind of dedication is rare and noteworthy, as Jeremiah was not just speaking from a distant position of authority but was emotionally invested in his words and his calling. Jeremiah also teaches us about the importance of staying true to our mission, even when personal pain and opposition seem overwhelming. His resilience is a powerful example of how, in our own lives, dedication to a cause or mission can require facing deep challenges and sorrows. He continued to preach a message of repentance and hope, even when it meant dealing with immense personal suffering. Jeremiah's persistence in his mission, despite the adversities, reflects the inner strength and conviction he possessed. His story encourages us to face our own challenges with the same determination and commitment, reminding us that even in the most difficult situations, our integrity and purpose should be maintained. Jeremiah's perseverance is an inspiring testament to how true dedication can overcome even the most severe difficulties. Finally, the image of Jeremiah preaching with tears is a powerful reminder of the humanity behind the prophetic mission. In moments when we are involved in our own battles and challenges, it is essential to remember the importance of staying true to our mission with an open heart and courage, just as Jeremiah did. His example continues to inspire those facing adversity while seeking to fulfill their greater purpose. Jeremiah's situation reached a critical point when he was thrown into a cistern filled with mud by the leaders of Judah. This brutal act was an attempt to silence him and leave him to die in a desperate situation. Imagine the feeling of being trapped in a dark, suffocating space with the mud rising and threatening your very survival. This episode illustrates the extreme hostility Jeremiah faced, symbolizing the leader's desperation to rid themselves of the truth he was proclaiming. The cistern, filled with mud, was more than just a prison, it was a cruel method to try to extinguish Jeremiah's voice. In similar situations in our lives, we face challenges that can seem as overwhelming as the mud Jeremiah encountered. Jeremiah's story reminds us that, even when we're mired in difficulties that seem insurmountable, there is always a possibility for overcoming and hope, as long as we maintain our faith and determination. This episode also demonstrates the intensity of the opposition Jeremiah faced. In a scenario where leaders sought to silence the voice of truth, Jeremiah was confronted with real physical threats, reflecting how integrity can place us in extreme situations. Jeremiah's experience prompts us to think about how we handle obstacles and resistance in our own lives, especially when we seek to do what is right in the face of severe adversities. Jeremiah's experience in the cistern is a powerful reminder that the truth often comes with great risks and challenges. However, it is also an example of how perseverance can prevail, even in extreme circumstances. Jeremiah did not succumb to the mud and suffering, showing that, despite immense difficulties, determination and faith can help us face the darkest moments and emerge stronger. Ultimately, Jeremiah's imprisonment in the cistern is a lesson in resilience and hope. Even in desperate situations, such as the imminent suffocation in the mud, Jeremiah's story teaches that courage and faith can help us overcome the most critical challenges. His experience invites us to reflect on our own ability to face adversities and find a way to move forward, even when it seems like we're sinking. At a crucial moment in Jeremiah's story, Ebed-Melech, an Ethiopian official, demonstrated remarkable courage by intervening on his behalf. With the permission of King Zedekiah, Ebed-Melech risked his own safety to rescue Jeremiah from the muddy cistern where he was imprisoned. This act of bravery not only saved Jeremiah's life but also highlighted the importance of solidarity and justice in times of oppression. It is a clear example of how one person's intervention can make a vital difference in desperate situations. Ebed-Melech's role illustrates that, even in scenarios of great adversity, there is always room for courageous and altruistic actions. In our own lives, we can find inspiration in how he stood up against injustice and helped someone in a vulnerable position. The act of intervening for those in need, even when it involves personal risk, is a powerful lesson about the importance of moral courage and commitment to justice. Ebed-Melech's rescue of Jeremiah also demonstrates the positive impact that an individual action can have. Sometimes, in the face of great challenges and injustices, a single person can act in a way that significantly alters the course of events. Ebed-Melech's example encourages us to reflect on how we can make a difference in our own communities and situations by raising our voices and taking actions that promote good and justice. This episode also reminds us that help can come from the most unexpected places. Ebed-Melech, an Ethiopian official, was not part of Judah's religious or political elite, but his courage and compassion were enough to bring significant relief to Jeremiah. The story teaches us that the willingness to help can come from unexpected sources and that each of us has the potential to make an important difference, regardless of our position or background. Finally, Ebed-Melech's rescue of Jeremiah is a testament to the human capacity to act with courage and compassion even in the face of great challenges. This act of bravery offers a glimpse into how, even when we are in trouble, the intervention and kindness of others can help us overcome difficult moments. Ebed-Melech's story invites us to consider how we can be agents of change and support for those facing adversities in our own lives. Even after his rescue, Jeremiah remained incarcerated but stayed true to his prophetic calling. After being rescued from the cistern, Jeremiah still faced imprisonment, a situation that could have easily discouraged him or made him give up his mission. However, even in confinement, he remained faithful to his prophetic calling. This aspect of his life demonstrates incredible resilience and commitment, showing that despite challenging circumstances, true vocation often requires unwavering fidelity. Jeremiah continued to proclaim the truth, even when it meant remaining imprisoned and isolated. Jeremiah's incarceration, even after his rescue, highlights the difficulty and perseverance needed to stay true to one's mission amid ongoing adversities. The situation reflects the inner struggle many face when their efforts to fulfill a higher purpose are constantly challenged. Jeremiah did not allow himself to be diverted from his path, showing that persistence can be crucial for achieving our goals, even when faced with prolonged obstacles. This period of incarceration also serves as an example of how external challenges can intensify the need for strong internal conviction. Jeremiah faced not only physical imprisonment but also emotional and psychological pressure to give up. His story inspires those who are facing their own forms of imprisonment, whether physical, emotional, or spiritual, to find the strength to keep fighting for what they believe in, regardless of the circumstances. Despite his incarceration, Jeremiah continued to serve as a channel of communication between God and the people of Judah. His willingness to remain faithful to his mission, even in confinement, illustrates the importance of staying committed to our principles and callings, even when everything seems to be against us. In our own lives, this may mean continuing to work towards our goals and values despite the difficulties and obstacles that arise. Jeremiah's story, even after his rescue and imprisonment, is a testament to the inner strength required to persevere in faith and mission. His dedication to his vocation, despite ongoing adversities, challenges us to reflect on our own determination and the importance of maintaining integrity and purpose, even when faced with difficult and challenging situations. The story of Jeremiah showcases God's faithfulness amid suffering and his perseverance in proclaiming the truth despite persecution. Jeremiah's story is a striking example of God's faithfulness even in the midst of intense suffering. Jeremiah endured numerous trials, from rejection by his own people to confinement in a cistern. Yet, despite these adversities, he continued to fulfill his mission with unwavering spirit. This journey is not merely a narrative about a prophet's life but also a testament to the constant divine presence and support, even when situations seem hopeless. Jeremiah's courage and continued proclamation of the truth, despite persecution and suffering, reveal the depth of his faith and the assurance he found in God. His perseverance in the face of adversity is a direct reflection of the strength God provided him. This reminds us that even when we face extreme challenges, faith and dedication can serve as anchors that sustain and guide us through life's most intense storms. God's faithfulness amid suffering is a powerful lesson we can apply to our own lives. When we feel that our struggles are insurmountable and that persecution is fierce, Jeremiah's story encourages us to seek divine strength to continue. Jeremiah's perseverance serves as an inspiring model of how to maintain faith and integrity, even when opposing forces seem impossible to confront. Moreover, Jeremiah's story underscores the importance of staying true to the truth, regardless of personal consequences. Jeremiah's willingness to suffer and even die for the truth he preached demonstrates a profound commitment to his divine mission. In our own lives, this challenges us to reflect on the depth of our commitment to our values and purposes, even when it places us in conflict with the norms or expectations around us. Finally, Jeremiah's example encourages us to recognize God's constant presence in our lives, especially in times of difficulty. His ability to face opposition with courage and faith is a powerful reminder that, even in the greatest trials, God's faithfulness and human perseverance can come together to transform adversities into testimonies of strength and hope. The journey of Jeremiah is one of the most impactful and inspiring in the Bible. His life, marked by tears and suffering, offers a powerful lesson on perseverance in the face of adversity. As the prophet faced persecution and rejection, his story reveals not only his suffering but also the constant presence and faithfulness of God amidst the pain. Have you ever felt like you were fighting a solitary battle, surrounded by challenges that seem insurmountable? Jeremiah teaches us that even in the most desperate situations, there is room for hope and renewal. His resilience challenges us to reflect on our own ability to maintain faith and integrity, even when the path seems barren and filled with obstacles. By understanding the depth of Jeremiah's suffering and perseverance, we are invited to assess our own journey and recognize ways we can apply these lessons to our lives. Are we staying true to our principles, even when faced with resistance? Jeremiah's story urges us to act with courage, even when adversity presents itself. Be inspired by Jeremiah's life and let his story strengthen your determination to continue fighting for what you believe in. Do not be discouraged by difficulties, instead, see them as an opportunity to grow and reaffirm your faith. If you found value and insight in this story, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications for more content that can transform your life.